If you'll kindly allow me, I'll sing one kirtan. However, before we sing this kirtan, I request you all to deliberate on something very profound. What is mantra? What is it? Really? And why is it powerful? Why is it effective? In the cosmology of the Vedas, there it is described that all existence develops from the subtle gradually to the gross. Oh, we were discussing this the other day. There's a graphic here. From the element of ego comes mind, intelligence, sound, space, air, water, earth, like this. So from the subtle elements gradually develop the gross elements. So according to this model, this understanding of reality, all the subtle elements exist in the gross elements as a potential. For example, inside earth, a rock. If you have a rock, is there any fire in it? Is the element of fire inside a rock? What do you think? If you take two rocks and you bang them together, fire jumps out, sparks appear. So the element of fire is a potential within the rock. You strike like this and the fire appears in the form of sparks. So in the same way, in Vedic cosmology, the element of sound is the subtle ingredient or subtle cause of the element of space. And therefore, in space, all around us, everywhere, there is sound in potential form. And just as when you strike stones, fire jumps out, when you manipulate the air with your vocal cords, then the sound which was potential within the ether is released. Comes out. So there's a common saying in Sanskrit, if you say the word cow, twice, you didn't say two words, but the same word was released from the, one word was released from the ether two times. So, now just as material sound is released from the space, material space which is all around us, so similarly, when a person has realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, when their consciousness is beyond time and beyond space, when their consciousness is absorbed in, if you like, the spiritual space, that is called Chidakash, then when they speak, the sound that manifests is not a material sound that comes from material space, but it's a spiritual vibration released from transcendental space. So when an enlightened spiritual master speaks the mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then the energy of Krishna's love, which exists eternally beyond this world, is released in the form of this mantra and comes into your ear and catches you, enters into your heart. And then when you chant, our chanting is not something that we do. Kirtan is not something that you do. I'll say that one more time. Kirtan is not something that you do. It's something that happens to you. It's something that happens to you when that transcendental vibration, that has come down from spiritual master to this present day comes by its own accord, spontaneously from your heart, and is dancing on your tongue. When we have ahankar, when we have ego, then we think, I am singing. I am doing kirtan. But actually we have no power to produce this transcendental sound. Only we can open our hearts and pray for what is called a spurti in Sanskrit. Spurti, sport. It means a bursting. A bursting of spiritual love, a bursting of the presence of God in the form of this mantra to appear in this plane, using us as it's the instrument of its appearance. So that's actually kirtan. Having a sing-along with your friends, that's not a kirtan. A kirtan is when we open our heart to become a conduit, to become a channel for the appearance of that independent transcendental sound. This sound is not only a sound. In this material world, any name is different from its object. So if you say the word flower, and then there's the actual object, the flower. So the flower and the syllables, flower, they're different. But because the spiritual plane is advaita, advai, there's no duality there. So there's no difference at all between the signified and the signifier. To use the word of the terminology of linguistics, right? You have the signified, and the word describing is the signifier. So in the plane which is beyond duality, there's absolutely no difference at all between the signified and the signifier. So the vibration of Krishna, can you say Krishna? Krishna. Isn't that beautiful? Krishna. Krishna. It's like the crashing of a wave in the ocean of sweetness. So Krishna is the ocean of sweetness, the ocean of love, the ocean of compassion. And there's no difference between him and his divine name, because it's all coming from the plane of non-duality. So when we don't, in India they don't say chant the name. Actually they say Naam lijiye, take the name. In other words, look, we're about to have a kirtan, that means the naam, the name is coming, take it. Here it comes. Oh, Krishna! Okay, so now we're going to have another kirtan, but this time, don't do it. Okay? Yeah? Don't have any ego. Ahankar in Sanskrit means ego. Aham means I am kara, doing. Ahankar, I am doing everything. So again, kirtan, but keeping our ahankar, ego to one side, just allow the divine vibration to manifest, to purify us, to purify the material impressions, the sanskars that we've accrued over many lifetimes, and raise us to the platform of divine consciousness.
Haribol.
Haribol. So now we'll take the name. Nama Shrishtam Manamapi Ashati Bhutam Atasupam Rupam Tasya Gajamuri Purim Maturim Goshtvatim Radha Kundamanirivaram Ahoradikam Harvasam Rakto Yasya Pratitapaya Shri Guru Tam Natos Urave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadai Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhagataya Namo Namah. Anandalilamaya Vigraha Hemabhadibhyatchavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Sham Sundar Shikandashika Smraha Smurli Manohara Radhika Mama Kripanidhe Sapriya Charna Kinkarim Kuru Tavayasmi Tavayasmi Najivami Tayadana Jivikyaya Devi Tam Nama Charantikam. First of all, I offer my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times at the feet of my holy master, my spiritual guru, Asmade Paramaradhatam Guru Parapadma, Nityalila Pravisht Om Vishnupad Ashto Tarasatasimad Rupanugaya Charivara Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I bow down with great respect to the Guru of my Guru, to Srila Prabhupada, to his Guru and his Guru and his Guru, and all the great saints, going back in an unbroken chain thousands of years to Sri Krishna himself. The channel through which the divine knowledge descends from ancient time into this world on this very day, right now, at 8:39. That's our connection with the eternal reality. So to all of those great spiritual masters, I offer my respect. And finally, I bow down with great affection to all of you, my dear God brothers and God sisters. So today, we are most fortunate because we have an opportunity to discuss the transcendental words of Sri Krishna as spoken in Bhagavad Gita. Now you probably are aware that this Bhagavad Gita, the Song of the Supreme Lord, was spoken on a battlefield. But right from the very first verse of this text, Dhritarashtra uvacha dharmakshetre kurukshetre sammavetaya yutsavaha mammakas pandavasthaya kimmakurvaka sanjaya. So many profound principles are presented before us. The context in which we find Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between a blind king. His name is Dhritarashtra. He's blind materially and he's blind spiritually also. Even his name indicates the symptoms of his spiritual blindness. His name is Dhritarashtra. Rashtra means kingdom, and Dhrita means one who holds. He's grasping. He's trying to hold on to the kingdom. He's old now. He wants to keep it for himself, and when he will die, he wants to pass it on to his sons. But actually, his sons are not the rightful heirs of this kingdom, but rather the sons of his brother. He's just a caretaker for some time being, until the sons of his brother were to come of age. So here, Dhritarashtra is very worried because his sons, they want to, and he wants his sons to take over the kingdom, but the rightful heir are the 5 Pandava brothers. So now these 2 brothers have met together on a battlefield with huge armies of millions of men. On both sides, they're about to face off, they're about to fight, to decide who will take the kingdom. So Dhritarashtra is very worried. Why? Because this battle, Dharma Kshetre Kuru Kshetre, is about to take place in a sacred, holy site. Many years before, there was a king. His name was Kuru. And he wanted to perform a sacrifice, fire sacrifice, a yajna, to go to heaven in his next life. So, he began to prepare a place, to purify a place for that sacrifice. So the tradition is first you have to plow the land in the place before the sacrifice is performed. Now Indra, who lives on higher planets, the heavenly planets, he was thinking, this king will do such a great sacrifice that he'll take my post. He'll take my job as enjoying the heavenly planet of Swargalok. So Indra wanted to disturb that king. So the king, he took his plow and he was plowing the land and preparing it for the sacrifice. So Indra, by his mystic power, took the form of some strange creature. And he approached that king and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He was very rude. "What are you doing?" So the king stopped plowing. He got down. He said, "I am preparing this field for the performance of a sacred ritual." So then that strange creature, in the form of Indra, he just laughed, and disappeared. So then the king again began to plow. After a short time, that strange creature appeared to him again. He said, "Hey you, what are you doing?" Patiently he stopped. He got down. He said, "I am preparing this field for the performance of a sacred ritual." And that creature, and ran away. After some time again he came back. "Hey, what are you doing?" He did this 99 times. Every time the king stopped, got down, he very patiently and humbly said, "I am preparing this field for the performance of a sacred ritual." Then Indra realized, I can't make him angry. You see, when you are on the spiritual path, if you become angry, everything is lost. Everything is lost. So he was just trying to irritate him. He was trying to agitate him. He was trying to wind him up a little. If he just get a little bit angry, then the whole ritual would be ruined. Understand? That was the Indra's intention. But after trying to provoke him, to trigger him 99 times, he realized, this is not an ordinary person. This person is genuinely saintly. He's genuinely free from pride, free from ego. And you don't want to make problems for such saintly persons, because the reactions are very heavy. So then Indra came and he blessed him. He said, "I was just testing you. Well done. You passed the test. I give you the blessing that this sacrificial arena will be very pure, and I also make this promise by my mystical powers that if anyone will die in this place, they'll come to my heavenly planet. Not the spiritual world, but it's a higher plane where the celestial beings enjoy their celestial pleasures." So, when this war was about to take place, just before which the Bhagavad Gita is spoken, the warriors decided, hey, why don't we have this battle in that place? Kurukshetra. Because it's a win-win. Right? You get killed and you die, you go straight to the celestial heavens and enjoy there. Like that. So, it's good for everyone. So the two armies have assembled together there on the battlefield. They're about to face each other. And the blind king, whose sons are quite evil in nature, quite wicked and unjust, he's very concerned about them. Why? Because when you're in a spiritual place with a spiritual atmosphere, then that will favor those who are righteous. So he's thinking, my sons, they're quite, immoral actually. So that's going to work against them fighting on the battlefield in a very sacred, historical, holy place. And that's why he's very concerned. Now the king, Dhritarashtra, he has a minister. So his minister's name is Sanjay. Sanjay is a disciple of a very great guru named Srila Vyasadeva. So Vyas is actually the compiler of the Vedas, of Vedanta Sutra, of the Mahabharata, of the Puranas. So he's considered to be the prime seer, rishi, the great visionary. So his guru is very qualified. And because he was very devoted to his guru blessed him with divine vision. That is, that he could meditate and go into trance. And in his trance, he could see Krishna. He could see what was going on. Though they were far away in the comfort and safety of the palace in the capital of Hastinapur, but from there, in his meditation, he could see what was going on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, so a few hundred kilometers to the north. So the very first verse of Bhagavad Gita, the blind king Dhritarashtra is saying, O Sanjay, when my sons and the Pandavas assembled together on the battlefield, what did they do? So already we have wonderful teaching is expressed here. If a blind person, spiritually blind, wants to receive knowledge, they should inquire from one who has spiritual vision. So, Sanjay, he has, by the grace of his spiritual master, that vision that he can see Krishna, he can see what's going on. And also here, we see the symptoms of blindness. That is that Dhritarashtra, he wants to hold on to the kingdom, he wants to possess the world, he wants to rule, he wants to control. And he's also filled with attachment, and the opposite of attachment, hatred. He's attached to his own sons, and he's against the virtuous Pandava brothers, of which Arjuna is the most famous. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken to Arjuna. So these are the symptoms of blindness. When we discriminate, we think, oh, this person is good, this person is bad, I like this person not so much. These are the symptoms of our blindness. This discrimination, this duality, this is all the symptoms of our illusion. So the Bhagavad Gita, in the first verse, there is such profound teaching. Now, come with us. Dhritarashtra posed his question to his secretary and advisor Sanjay. And Sanjay is going into samadhi, going into trance. So all of you now go into trance. And see, you can see, in your heart you will see, through the ears. When the sound vibration of Bhagavad Gita goes into your ear, it will be revealed in full technicolor. And stereo sound, everything will come as an experience in your heart. when the heart is peaceful, when the heart is still, we can see this beautiful conversation of Bhagavad Gita between Krishna and Arjuna. Because this is not a history or a fiction. It is an eternal reality. And we can be in touch with that eternal reality through hearing, through chanting and meditating. These are the practices of Bhakti Yoga. So he saw on the battlefield that Arjuna was looking at the armies and he said, "Hey Krishna, drive my chariot onto the middle. I want to see with whom we have to contend in this trial of arms." So then Krishna takes up the reins, he's driving Arjuna's chariot. And, "Yes sir," and he drives the chariot in the middle of the two armies. Already, the profound teachings of Gita are beginning to flow. Later in the Gita, there's some revelation that this Krishna, this person who's driving the chariot of Arjuna, very humbly, is God. He is the divine, supreme being. His body is not material. It's the condensed, concentrated eternity, knowledge and bliss. The embodiment of all beauty, artistry, intelligence, sweetness, compassion. All qualities, divine qualities are in him. He's God. And what is he doing? He's a taxi driver. He's driving some prince around on his chariot. The chauffeur. Right? Now if you were God, it's unlikely that you'd become a taxi driver, right? What would you do? What would you do? Have a big palace somewhere in a beautiful place. But Krishna is driving. In the Vedic culture, to be a prince obviously is very aristocratic and high society. But to be a chariot driver, a sutta, is actually a low position in the society. But God himself is taking this low position. Why? Because Arjuna loves him. Arjuna loves him. And it's the nature of Krishna that if someone's heart is full of love, then his heart melts and he thinks, how can I serve you? I want to please you. So God is not some mean old guy in the sky with a big beard watching everyone, you know, handing out parking tickets to people who do things. The great traffic warden in the sky. No, God's not like that. God is young, fresh, beautiful, and full of love. And if anyone loves him, then he wants to serve them. So Bhakti Yoga means the yoga of connecting, becoming related with Krishna through devotion. But that bhakti is not a one-way street. Hey everyone, let's all serve God. And God just lies back while you throw peeled grapes into his mouth. Right? But the Vedas say, Bhagavan Bhakta Bhakti Man. That Krishna, just as the devotee has bhakti, devotion to Krishna, and serves Krishna, life and soul, with their body, mind and words at all times, and they feel sad if they can't serve him and they can't please him. In the same way, Krishna feels like that about his devotee. He wants to serve his devotee. He wants to please his devotee. He doesn't feel satisfied. He feels restless if he can't serve his devotee. So how wonderful is that? You know, in some types of yoga, you can get some mystic powers. Like you can levitate or something, you know, fly a little bit like that. But what kind of achievement is that? Even a fly can fly. So great, now you're competing with an insect. Brilliant. Do austerities and meditation for 1,000 years, and now you can hover off the ground for a few inches. And a fly is just like, that's nothing. Just takes off, he's doing loops and everything. So what's the result of this yoga to get mystic powers? It's very insignificant. Otherwise, a person may do a type of meditation to try to get mukti, nirvana, where the soul just enters into a spiritual light and then their individuality is extinguished. And so there you are, floating in the light, completely monotonous, monotone existence, forever, doing nothing. That's a bit of an anticlimax. After lifetimes and lifetimes of searching for God and for the truth, and finally you just disappear into the light and it's all over. Was it worth it? Is that why we exist? It's got to be something better than that. Right? Okay, so. And then others, they think, oh, there's the form of Narayan. The four-armed form of Narayan, carrying the lotus flower and the chakra. Perhaps you've seen the paintings of Narayan, God. And they think by their meditation, they can enter into God and become God, essentially. They want to become God. So some persons, they have a spiritual practice to become God. But bhakti is so wonderful. It's so wonderful that when one's devotion becomes mature, you become not God, but greater than God, because God wants to be your chauffeur. God wants to be your servant. So how glorious is Bhakti Yoga? So glorious. So the Bhagavad Gita hasn't even started yet, we're just setting the scene. So then Krishna drives the chariot, and Arjuna looks and he sees the soldiers on one side and the soldiers on the other, and he sees his friends and relatives on both sides. And then he's completely crushed, because he realizes that this is a no-hope situation. There can't be a good outcome of this battle, of this war. He's going to lose his relatives, his friends, his loved ones, even his teacher from when he was at school, who was very dear to him, Dronacharya, was on the other side. His grandfather, Bhishma Dev, was on the other side, who'd raised him with so much affection in his childhood. So he was crushed by this, and he began to tremble, and he dropped his bow, and he just sat down and said, Krishna, I've had it, I'm not going to fight. And he had essentially a nervous breakdown. So this illustrates the nature of this material world. This material world is full of intractable problems. Full of situations and problems where no one can win, and you cannot solve them. Why? That is the nature of this illusion. And when we're in illusion, we have this idea that actually we can make everything perfect. We can fix everything. We can put it right. And we invest our time into that. But then you'll see, when you're old, that all your efforts came to nothing. That's the reality. So spiritual life begins with hopelessness. That it cannot be fixed. And neither is it our duty. We have not been divinely appointed to fix everything. But rather, that tendency is our ego. We want to enjoy independently of God. We want to control, we want to manipulate and enjoy in the physical plane, but we're spiritual beings. And so, every chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called one type of yoga. So like chapter 3 is Karma Yoga, chapter 4 is Dhyana Yoga, chapter 6 is Dhyana Yoga, and so on. What's the first chapter called? First chapter. What is it called? What type of yoga?
The yoga of Arjuna's lamentation.
It's called Vishad Yoga, yeah. Vishad means dejection. The yoga of dejection. Right? The yoga of dejection. What is that yoga of dejection? Let's all become hopeless. Is that a yoga? Yes, it's a kind of yoga. Because you realize the nature of illusion. And then, instead of trying to hover and linger in that illusion indefinitely, trying to fix everything, you realize, no, I have to transcend. So when we understand that as spiritual beings, we have to transcend this world, because we've come to that point of hopelessness in relation to it. Now we're actually on the path. We begin. Who's read the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali? Yoga Sutras, anyone? So in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says, Dukam eva sarvam vivekinaha. Dukam eva sarvam vivekinaha. For the yogi, for the discriminating yogi, he sees this world is like a sea of pain. You can put your hand on your heart and find out, am I a yogi or not? If I'm seeing some glittering attraction in this world, something that is calling me, something that is attracting me, inviting me to enjoy, then I'm not a yogi, actually. Because that is that attraction to the temporary. That is the state of illusion. So yogi, sarvam dukam eva sarvam vivekina. One who can discriminate sees everything here is painful. Why? Because there's suffering, and then there's happiness. When you experience some joy or some happiness, you become attached to the object which is giving you the happiness, which is essentially just lining you up for some suffering when you lose it. Right? Because time will take away everything. So there's suffering, and then there's kind of lining you up for a big suffering in the future, which is what we call happiness. Right? The material energy is like that. So your karma is either kind of punching you in the face, or just drawing back to take a really big swing. So the punch in the face is the distress, and this is the happiness. Right? So that's illusion. So Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra says, Sarvam eva dukam vivek. One who has discrimination, he sees all his suffering, and therefore the necessity is, I must transcend. But Arjuna is not in that state. He's not in that. He's in a state of distress, complete distress. He doesn't know what to do. So at that time, Krishna, who's his friend, and at this point Arjuna is in illusion. So it's according to the device of this drama. He's not aware that Krishna is Supreme Lord. He's just seeing him as a friend. So then Krishna says to Arjuna, "You coward! Pick up your bow and just get on with it. Your reputation will be ruined if you're filled with so much cowardice." Krishna literally calls him a eunuch. In other words, grow, whatever. So Krishna, Klaibyam masma gata pata naita tvai upapadyate. Don't be such a eunuch, Arjuna. What are you doing? Everyone will criticize you. You're a famous warrior. And for someone who's been honored to be dishonored, that's worse than death. And Arjuna saying, but, I don't want to kill these people. I feel compassion for them. And how will I enjoy afterwards? The spoils of war will be tainted with blood. And when all these men are killed, then their wives will be left alone. Their children will be left without fathers. And And killing people, this is sinful. And I can't decide what's right and what's wrong. So Arjuna puts forward so many arguments why he shouldn't obey Krishna's instruction. The first one is compassion. He feels compassion for people. The second one is, he said, I won't be able to enjoy in the future even if I win. The next one was there were social considerations. The next one was that he'd become entangled in some sin, karmic reaction. And the final one, he was just indecisive. So, while Arjuna is speaking all these excuses, essentially, Krishna does not tell him any spiritual instruction at all. Nothing. Not a word of spiritual instruction. Why? Because Arjuna is thinking, I can figure this out. He's thinking, by my intelligence I'll come to some conclusion. And he gives so many reasons why not to surrender to the will of Krishna. So, all the reasons why not to engage in bhakti, devotion to Krishna, that we have in our life are illustrated by Arjuna. I'm not going to go on this path of bhakti because I feel compassion. I have so many things to do for different people. And I want to enjoy. And I want to become involved in social things. And what about my karmic reactions I have to deal with? And I'm not sure, should I do it or should I not do it? And these are all reasons why we don't throw ourselves with full enthusiasm into the path of devotion to Krishna. So as long as he's thinking, he's depending on his own intelligence, Krishna gives no instruction. Why? Because you cannot impart a transcendental knowledge to someone who thinks they already know everything. So finally, in the second chapter of Gita, Arjuna says, Karpanya dosha ta subhava prichchami tam dharma samudacheta yat shreyasan nishticham bruhitan me shishastayam sadimam tam prapannam. He said, Oh Krishna, I don't know what to do in this situation. Please instruct me for my benefit. Now I have become your disciple and I am surrendering to you. And when Arjuna gives up pride in his own intelligence, in his own calculation, in his own worldly experience, and bows down to Krishna with folded hands and says, I am your student, I am your disciple, please tell me what to do. Then the first instruction comes. The teaching is that, there's a story that two students came to a violin teacher. So the teacher said, oh, do you have any experience playing violin? And the student said, no, I don't know anything, I've never done it before. So, okay, your lessons will be $10. He said to the other one, do you have any experience? He said, yes, I've been teaching myself, I've been practicing for a few years. Oh, your lessons will be $20. He thought, why is that? Because that person thinks he knows something and you have to unlearn it. It will be very difficult for him to unlearn the things he thinks that he knows. Because what the teacher wants to give him is something superior and beyond what he knows. And so, only when a living being realizes, I am in ignorance. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I am here. I don't know why my karma is coming to me in a particular way. I don't know what is beyond this world. What is the ultimate goal of my life? I am a fool. So when a person comes to that state, now the spiritual life can begin. So Arjuna has come to that point. He surrenders to Krishna. And now the answers become, the solutions are coming. First thing, na tu eva ham jatu nasam, na tvam nemi janadipaha, na chaivata bhavishya, sarve vayam mataha param. It means, hey Arjuna, Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all of these kings on the battlefield, nor in the future will any of us cease to be. In other words, I, you, and first person, second person, and third person, all of us have existed in the past with no beginning, in the present, and in the future with no end. Is that amazing? Isn't that amazing? What's your name?
Bridget.
Bridget. How old are you, Bridget?
36.
Okay, now pay attention again. As I mentioned, all of us have existed from time without beginning. So you're not 36, you are an eternal spiritual being. You've always existed. Perhaps you felt that sometimes when you wander in a forest in nature and you look around and there's just something that you feel, something eternal. You feel your soul to be as old as the hills. So it's a fact. All of us are transcendental, eternal beings. But according to our karma, we are taking birth and growing and then dying and taking birth again, growing again and again. That's called samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Until we become acquainted with our spiritual nature, with our spiritual identity, and connected with God in devotion, we'll go through so many lifetimes. And each lifetime is like one day at school. You don't graduate in one day. You have to study for a long time, learn so many lessons until you graduate. So many lifetimes you've been through, looking, searching, trying to find yourself and why am I here? And now you're coming to the end of your journey because you're here in Bhagavad Gita. When you're listening to the message in Bhagavad Gita, that means you're coming close now to your graduation. That you graduate from this plane and enter the divine realm. So Krishna's first teaching is that we're all eternal. And that's all. Another important point here is, if each individual person is eternal, that means we're eternally individuals. Don't think that when you're liberated we all mix together into one homogeneous blob. That I am you and you're me, and spiritual individuals. And we remain individual even in our liberated state. So then, see, Krishna describes to Arjuna, Prakrite kriyamarani gunae karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatva kartayam iti manyate. Though we are spiritual in nature, we think that we are this body and that we are doing everything. I'm standing, I'm sitting, I'm walking, I'm talking. But actually, only the senses of the physical body are engaged with their objects, but the self is doing nothing. The self is still, but we identify with our body activities. I remember when I was very young, only about 10 years old, my father took me to Disney World. So there was one attraction there, it was called, I think, Flying Carpet. Have you seen that? It was like a cinema. Right? It's a cinema, but 360 degrees all the way. The screen goes all the way around. And there are no chairs inside. There are just handrails. So all the people file in the dark, and there are no chairs, and they're standing rows by these handrails, and they're in the dark like that, and people are wondering, what are these railings for? You know? So then the light comes on, and you see a carpet in front of you and on the sides, but everywhere you look you can see the front, the sides, the back, and the grass, and the sky, and then suddenly the carpet goes shh, because it's just a movie, but it takes off and it's 3D, it's all around you, and it takes off and goes up through the sky. And it gets higher, and it flies towards some mountains, and it goes up over them, and when it was just flying over the mountain, suddenly it goes down like this, and everyone goes, whoa! And they grab over the rail. And then the carpet is going to the right, and then it's going to the left, it's flying over these forests, and everyone's going, whoa! They're leaning this way, leaning that way. And they're holding so tight to the rail so they don't fall off the floor, which is completely still. Why are they all holding on and almost falling over? Why? Because their senses are telling them that they're moving. No one's moving. Room's not moving. They're not moving. Nothing's moving. But their senses are telling them, whichever way they look, that they're moving. So in the same way, we are spiritual beings. We are souls. We are beyond time. We are beyond space. We are beyond the drama of the happiness and distress of this world. But our senses are telling us we are moving. And because we're attached to trying to enjoy or control or manipulate the external material energy, like that, therefore we're so fixed in this illusion. And so we're holding on. Holding on to our ego really tightly, so that we can somehow survive through this journey. This is called illusion. So Krishna said, when a person has ego and identification with the body, then they're engaged in so many activities, trying to enjoy here and there, so many ambitions, but they just become more and more entangled in karma. So what is the solution? Mancho yavya vichayana bhakti yoga sevite sadhunam samatityatam brahma bhuyaya kalpate. This world, which is a product of three gunas, everyone knows a little? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, you're all familiar with this. The energy of creation, maintenance and destruction is bringing about all the phenomena of this world. And our consciousness is involved in that. But Krishna said, if one engages in loving service to me, continuously without any break, then the effects of the material energy, creation, maintenance and destruction, will leave your consciousness and you'll rise above this world. Just in the way that the person who's having a nightmare wakes up and sees, well, he wasn't really in danger. So in the same way, by rendering devotional service, Bhakti Yoga to Sri Krishna, the effect of the gunas and this illusion, it melts away and the soul transcends this world and comes face to face with Krishna. And then you are happy. See? Now, everyone's looking for Krishna. Everyone's looking for Krishna. All of us. Right? Because all we want is to love and be loved. Really, right? Isn't that what? If that's what you want, you can raise your hand. Right? We just want to love someone and be loved. But in this plane, all relationships are, first of all, temporary. So the love it won't last because it will come to an end. And secondly, everyone feels something lacking. So when two people who are hungry meet, then they're both lacking. All they can do is eat each other. Right? So that's what goes on in this world. Like vampires, we're lacking. We're looking for someone to give us something that we're lacking. But the other person is looking for something to give them what they're lacking also. Like this. And so no one is ever really satisfied. But we're looking for a person who's beautiful, intelligent, compassionate, sensitive, artistic, all wonderful qualities. So all those qualities that we're searching for, they have a fountainhead. They come from somewhere. They come from God. So knowingly or unknowingly, we're all looking for Krishna. And when we find Krishna, then we become happy. We become perfected. Completely perfected. But the problem is this, that Krishna is beyond the three gunas. He's transcendental to material energy. So if we want to meet with him, we can't stay down in the modes with the frogs and the toads. We can't stay in the swamp. We've got to rise above that. And we can do that. See, Krishna in Gita said, Satatam kirtayanto mam yejana paripasata. That my devotees always engage in kirtan. Directly in Gita. Satatam kirtayanto mam. My devotees always engage in kirtan. So by singing the holy names regularly, every day, come together with devotees and sing, And also, you can probably have some here available for the students. Some japa. If you have a mala, mala is used for meditation, you can sit and do quiet, your individual meditation early in the morning. You sit and chant the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. The vibration goes deeply into your subconscious mind, and it begins to eradicate all the impressions of many lives of bodily identification. And gradually, when the subconscious mind and the conscious mind become cleansed, then the soul is released from the illusion of bodily identification, and the mantra itself reveals, the sound vibration reveals the form of Krishna. This is in a nutshell. There are many things in Bhagavad Gita. Discussions of different types of yoga, many technical, philosophical points as well. You should read a little every day and gradually learn them. But the essence of Gita is this. This material world is not our home. We can't fix it. Actually, there's nothing wrong. The defect is in our eyes. Our vision of reality is wrong. Everything is okay. Our vision is wrong. So we have to cleanse our vision by realizing our spiritual nature. And our spiritual nature is that we're part and parcel of God. And so just as the parts of your body collaborate together to serve the stomach, if you have some food, the hand can't eat it. The hand has to take it and give it to the teeth. The teeth can't eat it, they just chew it. The mouth can't, it has to, all the parts of the body work together to deliver that to the stomach. Because the stomach gives energy to every single part of the body. So in the same way, because we're all parts of God, we cannot be happy separately or individually, but when our energy is given in loving service to the source of our being and the source of all beings, then automatically we become happy, and we also benefit everyone else. Every single living entity in the whole world is benefited by your devotional sentiment, by your devotional service, by body, mind and words. That energy doesn't just go to Krishna, but like putting water on the root of a tree, that water is distributed to every leaf. All your devotional activities benefit every single person in the world. Like this evening we did kirtan. But the sound of this kirtan is spreading. The vibration is going throughout Boston, throughout America, throughout the world, throughout the universe, and neutralizing the karmas of the living entities. So Bhakti Yoga is the best thing for us and the best thing for everyone. If you really want to help yourself and really make a difference in the lives of others, of other souls, then with enthusiasm, walk on this path of bhakti. And there you will find happiness and benefit everyone. So we'll complete our discussion. Thank you.
Hare Hare.